Good morning. Today I'll be talking about pots in ancient Greece. I chose this topic because I felt it was interesting and it also related to my previous project dealing with wine in ancient times. First, let's run down the different types of pots and what they were used for. And apologies in advance if I happen to butcher any of these names. The amphora pot, which is the pot you see on the left, is one that we see most times nowadays. These pots would have two handles on the side and they were used for storage of wine, milk, and grain, and also often water. The hydria pot, which is the one in the middle, was most notable for having three handles. The two on the sides were to hold it, and there would be one in the back to pour it, which was a longer handle, just like the ones that are on the amphora pots. These were typically used for things like parties and dinners, as they would be used for the use of pouring such things as wine or water. Lekythos pots were used in funeral services. They would contain oil, and the person who owned them would typically be buried with them. Ancient Greece pots were created very similar to the way that we create them today. However, most of our pottery wheels are now all, electronic instead. They always used the finest clays for all of their pottery, and they'd find them typically around like water, river fronts, and all that jazz. Very often they were rich red color and they'd be terracotta clay. The clay would be tossed on a low to the ground potter's wheel that was always spun by an assistant. The base of the vase would be spun first, typically the, typical vase shape that we see. Handles and anything extra, such as a possible lid, were added on later. Then they would fire the pots in a kiln, and then after they would paint them, and I use that in air quotes because the paint on these pots was also a fine clay. However, it had just been oxidized differently, and therefore the black color that you typically see on ancient pots was a different type of clay. I decided that for my project I was also going to make an attempt to make one of the pots, specifically an amorpha pot, because they're the most common one that you see. However, the technique that I use is slightly different due to the fact that I am a university student with about $12 in his bank account and therefore can't really afford a potter's wheel. So please enjoy this video of me trying to create one of these. some final images of my pot. My pot is definitely not the sturdiest. As you can see, it definitely cracked in a couple of places. I definitely should have used more water for my project, so if I ever did this again, that was something I should definitely consider. These are the sources that I used for this project, and I hope you guys enjoyed.